So the seniors were primarily going into the military, and because the war ended, then we were not quite sure what was going to happen to those that were in the Cadet Corps. President Truman, then, who succeeded President Roosevelt, did not wish to continue the cadet nurse program as far as new cadets, new student nurses, but to complete the education of those that were in the program.
Mm-hmm.
So 1948 was the end of the formal training.
Right.
And of course the men were coming back from the service, so many got married. And some stayed at home to raise families, and others went on to extend their nursing education by getting degrees.
And where did you wind up when you,
Well,
locally or?
I completed my training in Scranton in 1948, and I went to New York State because other nurses from my school were working there. So that's where I originally started my graduate nursing. And then I went to Florida, and a veterans hospital had been, or rather a hotel, was converted into a veterans hospital and then a general hospital. So I worked there, and I was married, and until I came back east up to New Jersey. Never went back to Pennsylvania to work, but worked in New Jersey for many years. In fact,
Wow.
I had 50 years of nursing before I retired.
Wow. What about you, Marjorie?
Actually, because of Bellevue and its location, our last 6 months, we were sent to veterans hospitals, Army and Navy hospitals, and one of the cadets was sent to an Indian reservation. So we were deployed our last 6 months of training where they thought we would be needed, taking care of veterans and so forth and so on. So I went to the Bronx VA. I was there for 6 months. And after Bellevue and the very hard work that we experienced there, they treated us extremely well. And of course, we loved the veterans. That was such an honor to care for them. We worked days and we worked evenings, but we were not permitted to work nights, which again was a big plus for all of us. But again, we lived in the nurses' home there. And so I completed training. I worked in New York for a year. I took my state boards, passed my state boards in New York, and that was good because we had reciprocity with all the states in the Union at that time.
Wow.
So I worked for a short time at hospitals in New York, and then my husband came home. He was a Navy Seabee. And I wanted to complete some other assignments that I had, so I waited a year. Did get married. I worked for small portion of time in Hackensack Hospital. But after I had a third child, I said, I'm going to stay home with my children. My husband said, that's fine with me. He had a good job. He also was going back to school to become an engineer. So I stayed home for 12 years, and then I returned to work at Hackensack Hospital just on a Saturday evening or Sunday. Went back to classes to catch up with what was going on. And then after the kids were in college, we needed more money. Obviously needed more money. So I went to a VA hospital, and the last 20 years of my workforce, I was in surgical ICU at a VA hospital.
Very
So that's
interesting.
just about sums it up. But it was one of the best things I ever did in my life to go to
Wow.
a nursing school.
Now you brought out something, and we had a little discussion before that. There were many people from different nationalities. Maybe one of you could just quickly touch on that to make sure that we give everybody their proper tribute.
Well, the cadet nursing program stipulated there would be no discrimination, color, race, creed, and that was a first, because prior to this, there was those that were accepted, and because of their particular color or creed, were not acceptable. Even the Jewish girls were not accepted into nursing programs prior to this. And so they were very, very happy to be part of the Nurse Cadet Corps. I think that that was one of the most important things that happened in nursing, because the door was open. The only people that were probably not benefiting were the men, because the men were encouraged to go into the Army and the Navy, and even though they were educated as nurses, they were given positions or jobs that had nothing to do with nursing, so they did not benefit from it. Right. So the women, for one time, became the majority of the nurses, and it's still that way today, although men are being more and more involved in nursing education, right, emergency services.
But there were people from reservations.
Yeah, well,
and so other groups.
Well, yeah. Actually, the cadets in their senior year were sent to different areas, and the Indian reservations were one of the areas. I particularly wanted to go to Indian reservation, but I was assigned to public health nursing in the city. So that's my last 6 months.
Right. I think that there was a large group of African Americans that were accepted.
Yes.
I know that there's a book out about Japanese women that were in the internment camps, right, and somehow they were extracted and brought into the nursing program, and so it was just anybody and everybody that could pass the exam got a shot at getting into the nurse corps.
And it was difficult to pass because the exams were very detailed, and you were expected to improve your situation in nursing by becoming better educated. And right, of course, the door was opened, and many nurses, when they graduated, went on to college and universities,
right,
if they didn't get married first.
Right. All right.